so that they can use it as reference. So yeah, so you can, you don't have to show yourself on video, and then just mute yourself and put your video like blank. So, okay, so Urban Harvest is, again, I just want to mention that this is an urban forest initiative that aims to harvest and redistribute surplus produce found right in our own backyards to reduce food waste. And this is an initiative of one of the 5 community reduce and reuse programs and part of the City of Toronto's long-term waste management strategy. So we host workshops like this to encourage people and to equip people how to preserve food, especially their own harvest and seasonal produce that you can normally would buy cheap in the grocery. Okay, okay, so why do we can foods? I just want to review from last week so that we can reiterate what we learned from last week. So I'm just reviewing fast the slides that we had. So we can foods for so many reasons, and these are 4 of them. Extend shelf life of food. It's good for the environment. It reduces food waste and saves time and money. For me personally, this is why I can food. Okay, I'm gonna show you some photos. And I hope that you also, this encourages you to, discover the world of canning and food preservation. So this is my son. His name is Elijah. And this was at least 5 years ago, I'd say. He's so tiny then. He's going to be 12 in the fall. And this is one of the things that we do in the fall with our Italian neighbor. This is a basket of already processed jars of tomato sauce. Okay, so our house is right across from our Italian neighbor. And as I mentioned before, if you are following my story, I used to do my own canning by myself. And I said, it's so tiring. How can I make this more efficient so that I don't can every weekend for 4 weekends, because it's just a lot of work. I love to can. I love to can my own food, but it's a lot of work. So I learned about, my Italian neighbor who has her own like machine for processing large amount of tomatoes. So this is what we do as a family in the fall. One weekend, we do it like over a period of a day. It's not even the whole day. Okay, but the prep you have to do. Okay, so my son has been involved in doing that. And these are all like tomato sauce, at least 35 bottles of them in 500 pints. And we consume them for, over a period of like 1 year. And some of them I even give away as gifts, and it's very much appreciated. And we use it for curries. We use it for any pasta or anything that calls for puree, because we don't put a lot of spices in it. Just make it like, neutral. All right, so other reasons why I can is I try to experiment on like food. I see a lot of like crab apples during crab apple season at the farm, and I try to like preserve them in these mason jars and see how they taste like. There are I know they're very tart, these apples, so I try to preserve them and see, pickle them actually, and this is what I did in here. And I always try to like bring in my son to be a part of this process, so he knows the growing process of food and preserving food. And during the season of scapes, like garlic scapes, which is around the corner, mid-June to end of June, we can see the garlic scapes shooting up the buds. We normally would cut the buds because we want a bigger garlic bulb in the soil. If you don't cut the garlic scapes, you will end up with a smaller bulb. So you cut the garlic scape and you turn that into pesto. But you would end up with so many garlic scapes anyway. So I try to like vary the different ways that I can store scapes. So this is a garlic scape pickle, and along with other things that I can, like whole tomatoes, pure tomato sauce, what is that, caramel jam, that is an apple during apple season, I try to can like apples as well, because I have an apple in my backyard. In the fall, this is the season where we harvest a lot of cabbage heads, you know, at the farm. And also when you go to the store, cabbage are usually like on the cheap, so you can buy them, you know, and turn them into sauerkraut. And this is what you can see in here. And they last over the period of winter, and it's good for your health. It has nutritional benefits. Okay. So there. So if you have other reasons why you can, and you can just share it with us in the chat, why you can, or why do you intend to can or preserve any of the food that you grow, or any food that you like. Okay, so home preservation reduces our reliance on the corporate food system, and it gives us control over our food and what we put in our body, and also reconnects us to the land. A lot of people, my son is telling me, a lot of my classmates, they don't understand climate change. I said, like, because we need to make that connection to the land in order for us to, like, you know, protect the land. If you protect the soil, well, we plant our fruits and vegetables, because we know that a good soil would produce like good vegetables, you know. So it's all connected together. And if you don't understand our connection to the land, the health of the land, then it's hard to understand also, you know, how to help the, you know, see our role in preventing and climate change. Okay, so we spoke about the two types of heat processing that we did. One of which is the boiling water canning or water bath canning. This is what we are doing. And we use a big pot of or a water bath canner, specifically like I showed you last time. I can show it again to you later. A big soup pot you can use if you don't have that water canner, as long as you have that rack at the bottom to protect the, you know, to protect the glass from directly touching the bottom of the canner. There's pressure canning, but we are not delving into that. Okay, either way, we are using heat to kill off the harmful bacteria in the food, and then it creates that airtight seal when we boil it. Okay, so we again, for review, boiling water canning is safe for high acid foods. Pressure canning is good for low acid foods. And acidity plays a big factor in the food, because this actually is the one that preserves the food in that in the jar. Okay, we create this environment so that it is not a good environment for bacteria to grow. Okay, again, the measure of acidity is by pH level. Most acidic is on the left side, 0, and we want a lot of the food that are acidic, we want to play with this food that are like 4.6 or lower. Okay, and least acidic are like meats and vegetables. Okay, so high acid foods are low in pH and less than 4.6. It's safe to use in boiling water canner, and it gets heat up to 100 degrees. It kills most molds, yeast, and bacteria. And these are the examples of high acid foods. Okay, jams, jellies, pickles, salsas, most fruits. Okay, and we also spoke about like tomatoes being in the borderline. That's why we add some acidity to it, like canned lemon juice. Okay. And low acid foods such as like vegetables and meat, they must be processed through a pressure canner that heats up to 115 degrees centigrade. This is required to destroy the toxin spores present in this food. Okay, and these are the low acid foods we talk about. You know, we want to avoid botulism. Okay, so the environment that we create in the jar, okay, when it's properly sealed, okay, prevents botulism. Okay, and this bacteria thrives in low acid food in the absence of air and moist environments. So we try to avoid that. That's why we you know, we seal our jars properly. Of course, canning is not the only method of preservation. That's why we utilize different ways to preserve food, such as freezing, dehydration, air drying, and fermentation accordingly. Okay, depending on what food, okay, and what texture we want to achieve. The home canning steps is we need to have our equipment. We need to prepare our food. It's important to wash and sterilize our jars to achieve that clean environment. Okay, pack your jars, process your jars, and don't forget to label your jars. Okay, and it's very important to have like a clean, kitchen counter whenever you are dealing with food, because we want everything to be clean. Okay, we also reviewed the equipment that is needed and tools that are needed. We need to have, as I mentioned, boiling water canner, the rack, glass jars, which has 3 parts: the jar, flat lid, and rings and screw band. I'm going to demo it again today, so you can have, like, if you missed the first part, you can have a chance to see that. And then we have our canning kit. And there are the 3 most useful in the canning kits are the funnel, bubble remover, the funnel, magnetic lid lifter, and jar lifter. So those are the most important items, I believe, whenever you have this canning kit. Okay, we made pineapple mango salsa last time. Okay, and this is the recipe. Okay, and if I can show, this is the mango salsa that we made last time. All right, and it was taste tested by my son and my husband. They love it. It goes well with chips, the nacho chips. And one of the staff at the farm was able to taste this as well, and he loves it very much. So I hope you get a chance to test that out and see and enjoy this salsa. Okay. These are the home canning steps. Is there any question? If any among you had tried canning, is there any question in the following steps where you kind of struggle, or you kind of have you were not sure what you were supposed to do? You can share that in the chat as well. Okay. And we'll have another walkthrough today of how to do, but in this case, it's pickling. So it's in the same way we'll be canning these pickles as well. So you'll have a chance to again see how to can step by step. Okay, so we go to pickling. All right. So what is pickling? Pickling is actually an ancient preservation method that alters the taste and texture of foods. Okay, I want to highlight it alters the taste and texture. Okay, so that means the texture of the food becomes more different. Okay, if you've ever tasted what do you call it, sauerkraut? Okay, so imagine the cabbage turning into acidic, or tart. So it alters, the taste is altered, and then the texture of the of the sauerkraut is also more what do you call that? It has some bite to it. It's not like soft. Okay, so because they absorb the salt into the cells of the cabbage leaves. Okay. So today we're going to use cucumbers, and let's see what happens to the taste and texture of the cucumber once we subject it to pickling. Okay, there are 3 types of pickles that I want to mention here. Number 1 is refrigerator pickles, or it's also called quick or fridge pickles. Why? Because it's so quick. You make your brine. Okay, cut up your vegetables, make your brine. Okay, put everything into the mason jar and let it sit for a week or 2, and you'll have it ready, and you can quickly make this, and it can last for 2 months. Okay, so you don't need to can a refrigerator pickle. Okay, you just need to make a brine, cut up vegetables and put them together, let it sit in that brine solution, and you have a pickle. Okay, the second one is hot water canned pickles, and these are more shelf stable, and they can stay at room temperature, let's say the pantry or your basement, and they can last up to a year or longer. Okay, I've canned different things, and I know I try to like consume them, you know, up to a year, but sometimes I can't like eat all of them, and they last longer than 1 year actually. Okay, as long as they are stored properly and they are not being subjected to very high heat, or you know, or just freezing. Okay, 16 degrees around that time, around that, or room temperature is fine. Okay. The third interesting type of pickle is called lacto fermented pickles. And we did workshop on this one fall, maybe like three years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So this is where you work with beneficial bacteria. Okay. You want that bacteria. Okay. Okay. So I just want to compare this 2 and 3 together. In number 2, hot water canned pickles, you don't want any bacteria thriving in your jar. But in number 3, lacto-fermented pickles, you are actually working with the naturally occurring bacteria in the food. Let's say example like cabbage, there is naturally occurring like bacteria that are beneficial, and they turn the lactose, naturally occurring sugar from cabbage, and they turn into lactic acid. Eventually what happens is that they produce enough lactic acid and they create an acidic environment within that it preserves that whole batch of sauerkraut that you make. So that's how lacto fermented pickles like happen. And if properly prepared and stored in a cool, dark place, let's say refrigerator, okay, they can last at least 4 to 18 months. Okay, we're going to revisit again like how to make like lacto fermented pickles, like sauerkraut. We also made kimchi in the past. Normally we do it in the fall when there's abundance of all this, you know, fall harvest like cabbages. And so please keep an eye out for that. All right, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me about lacto fermented pickles if you're interested. Okay, so basically what are pickles? So fruits or veggies sitting in an acidic solution like vinegar with added salt, sugar, and spices. So that's it, you know. So just vinegar, okay, to create that acidic, you know, environment, and then salt, sugar, and spices. All right. So let's talk about the benefits of pickling again. Okay. So the benefits of pickling is number 1, again, it's the same way. It extends the shelf life of food. Okay. And for those, number 2, it saves seasonal harvest. If you are into growing your food, I know a lot of parents are very much interested in growing their food this year. I hope you're able to extend the shelf life of this seasonal harvest into like winter and beyond that by pickling some of these. And some of the best what do you call that, vegetables that you can pickle are, you know, peppers. If you are growing a lot of peppers, you can pickle that. And I'm growing some pickling cucumbers, so I hope to harvest some and preserve them so that I can enjoy them for later. So number 3, another benefit is it alters and enhances the taste and texture of food, like we mentioned already. Okay, number 4, oh, this is interesting. All right, so it makes food easier to digest. Sometimes some people have a hard time digesting, like, you know, the food right away, but when it undergoes the pickling process, it gets break down by, let's say for lacto fermented food, it gets break down by the beneficial bacteria, so it's easier for us to digest. Okay. Number 5, in terms of fermented foods, there's some studies that show that there's nutritional benefits that go along with eating fermented foods. All right, so there's been like a big, you know, interest in eating fermented foods. They were the first to actually be like the first pickles among like all different cultures. So if you know any fermented food from your culture, please share that in the chat. We would love to know more about it. Okay, so yeah. Okay, steps to making pickles is, of course, again, you need to prepare your veggies. You need to make your brine. That's the second one. Sterilize and pack jars when they are hot. And then process jars. Okay. Important thing to note is the pickle brine ratio. Okay. You want to use 2 parts vinegar to 1 part water. Okay, and and that you don't normally alter this ratio. Okay, this is the safe ratio in order to create that environment to safely, make it shelf stable. And you can add spices, and this is where you can have fun and be flexible with the spices. Okay, if you find a recipe where, hey, I don't eat or I'm allergic to this particular spice, then you can take it out and replace it, or you can just take those spices that you don't really like, like. Or because like you don't want to add another like spice that you will just use once, then you don't necessarily have to buy all the spices. Okay, in terms of salt, let's talk about salt. Okay, so use a pickling salt. I'm going to show you. Okay, I have a pickling salt. It looks like this. All right, so why pickling salt? Because it says here contains no additives. Okay, so some of the salt that you buy would normally contain, some of them would have like iodine in them, and you don't want iodine in the pickle because it creates this cloudiness, okay, in your pickle. Okay, it creates that cloudiness, and also you don't want anything that has like what do you call this, like anti-caking agent. Okay, so normally they would add that because they don't want the salt to clump together. So I was checking the kosher salt. So in the ingredients, it says here salt and yellow phosphate of soda. It's an anti-caking agent. So try to look for one that says, a pickling salt. Sea salt also is good. Just try to like, read the ingredients that it just contains salt. So you just want that so that it doesn't alter the taste or create some cloudiness in your pickle.
Mildred, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
For the water, does it need to be special? So like filtered or distilled, or is tap water okay?
For pickles, tap water is okay. With fermented food, which we can like host another workshop later, they recommend to have a filtered water. Okay, because we are working with bacteria, the presence of like chlorine kind of like affects like the bacteria whenever we're using that. But yeah, so you can use tap water. Okay, or you can just let the water, like if a recipe calls for filtered water, what you can do is you just sit out a batch of water in a container and let the chlorine evaporate overnight. The evaporate will just go away. All right. Okay, so next is sugar. Sugar is also like added on to the pickle to improve the taste and to have that kind of balance of salt and sweet, right? And for pickles, whenever you buy a pickle, you can see that it's clear. Okay, so normally they would use like white sugar. Okay, now can we use brown sugar? You can use brown sugar as long as you don't mind, having that kind of like this coloration. Okay, if you want like a clear pickle, then you can stick with white sugar. If you'd like the brown sugar because it's less processed, then you can use that as well. Okay, normally like with like this pickle, if I'm just using it for at home, I would use like brown sugar. If I would use it as a gift, maybe I would use a white sugar. For jams, I would go for like brown sugar because like it doesn't show anyway in the jam. So it's according to your preference how you would want to pick between white and brown sugar. Okay, so let me share. So this is the recipe we're making: bread and butter pickles. All right, so what we need are 2.5 pounds pickling cucumber, 1/4 cup pickling salt, 1 pound white yellow onions thinly sliced, Here, it doesn't call for water because I believe the cucumber has lots of water in it already. Okay, so but we are putting in vinegar, white distilled vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and sugar. Okay, so this is, let me talk about a pickling cucumber. Okay, so this is a pickling cucumber. If you've gone to the market and seen this, they are normally like prickly. They have like some bumps, and if you touch it, it's like they could prick you, and it hurts a bit. Okay, so the way to handle a cucumber like that is, let me switch my camera. Okay, so when you touch that cucumber, when you're harvesting or you're like picking from the grocery, don't touch it like that. Okay, because like it could prick you. Okay, normally when I harvest them, I try to like brush or rub it like that, like along the length of the cucumber. Okay, so that it doesn't prick me. So I would do that. You can wear gloves so that like you can like rub the prickly stuff off. Okay, so that is that. Okay, now is this a pickling cucumber? No, it's not. It's called a field cucumber. As you can see, we are not yet in the season of like where cucumbers are in season, but this is our like a way to like kind of practice, okay, so that I can just demonstrate to you. Now, in lieu of a pickling cucumber, use this field cucumbers. Please avoid the English cucumber because they tend to be so soggy. Okay, when they get subjected to heat, they would just mush, and that's not fun. You wouldn't like the end result of that pickle. Okay, I've done that before because I thought all pickles are the same, but they are not. Okay, the reason why it's calling for a pickling cucumber is because that holds the texture. Okay, it doesn't go mush. Okay, when you pickle that, when it gets subjected to a little bit of heat and acidity. So this will be sitting in an acidic and some heat application. So it would hold its shape still even after that. Okay, so I've done this before and I had good result with it. So please get a field cucumber. So that is that. And what else? Spices. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you. Okay, so 2.5 pounds of pickling cucumber, but I substituted the field cucumber as I mentioned. This is your friend. Okay, I know it would cost some some money to have like to buy this item, but this is a good investment if you are trying to like be more accurate in terms of measurement. Have a weighing scale, and then you can use it for baking and all your other canning projects. Okay, so 2.5 pounds would mean like that would be like 3 cucumbers this size. Okay, 2 cucumbers and half. Okay, so I'm going to half this. This is already 2 cucumbers. I'm going to like cut this and use the other half. That would make for 2.5 cucumbers. You can when you go to the grocery, you can like eyeball it and get like 3 medium size of this. Or if you're getting like large size, you can cut the and get 2.5 of this, and that would be like 2.5 pounds. Okay, next is so let me just cut that. Is there any question at this point? I'm just gonna quickly wash my hands.
There was one question just asking about the difference between a regular cucumber and a pickling, but you answered it on cue. So just to review, regular cucumbers become a little mushy, whereas the pickling cucumber holds its texture in the heat and acidity.
All right, so we are cutting this like 1/4, 1/5 of an inch. So we're not cutting it too thin because then we don't want it to get like mushed. Okay, so this is 1/4 to 1 inch. Don't worry, we'll be sharing the recipe later. Right. Remember to cut the blossom end, actually, that is the blossom end. And if you're using this to like make ferments, cut the blossom end of the cucumber or any of the fruit, because that has like, what do you call this? It prevents like ferment. It kind of, you know, it tracks the fermentation process, okay? All right, so take the end of the cucumber and cut. Right, so now I have my cucumbers in here, and I want to add, you know, 1/4 cup. Sorry, I have here 3 medium yellow onions already cut. Cut them in rings, okay, thinly sliced. I'm going to add that. Okay, and to that I will add the salt. So it's 1/4 of this pickling salt. All right, so don't worry, we're gonna wash this out later. Okay, so you have an option if you want your pickle to be a little bit like, you know, have some like heat to it. You can cut up this Scotch bonnet and just put it as part of the, you know, your pickle. All right, if not, then you just leave it. Okay, so for this batch, we're just keeping it, you know, no heat. Okay, and I will just mix them all together so that we can incorporate the salt in here. All right, so what we're trying to do, why are we putting salt in it, is like we want some of the moisture to like go away. We want the salt to go into the cucumber, and some of the water to actually like go out of the cucumber. So this firms up the cucumber later on, okay? And the next step that we will do with this actually is to put this in the fridge, okay? So you can put like a tea towel. A towel like this. And if you have ice, it's recommended in that recipe to put ice on top. Okay, so I have this ice. Okay, I don't have enough ice, but that will do for now. Okay, so if you have more ice, you can do that. And this will go in the fridge for 4 hours. Okay, 4 hours. This will firm up the cucumber, so you can get that, you know, when you bite into the cucumber, there's some crispiness in it. Okay. So after 4 hours, this is what happens. Okay, so this batch I didn't put ice on it. Okay, I just wanted to show you that with the other one I put ice on it because the original recipe is calling for it. I've tried it without putting ice on top. I just leave it in the fridge for 4 hours or more, and it was the same. It had the same result. Okay, so what do we do with this now? This is very salty. Okay, so what we want to do is actually rinse off the salt. Okay. Rinse off the salt off of this. Rinse it twice at least. Okay, so that we get rid of all the salt, and drain it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. So give me a second.
In the meantime, I'll just share, we had a comment about use of tap water. So they say tap water is fine. However, tap water has fluoride, which can and will affect the process of killing the bad germs. and allow the good germs to kind of take over. So it's not impossible, but it might be a slower process.
Oh, wow. Those jalapenos have a kick, okay? I used just one and I could like feel it in my nose. All right, now we can concentrate. Just give me a second. So while this is draining, okay, it's in a colander and it's draining, we are going to make our brine. Okay, so let me just switch. Okay, so what do we need for our brine? We need 1.5 cups of white distilled vinegar. So it's calling for 5% acidity. All right, let me just show you this one. This one is called pickling vinegar. You don't need to buy this as long as it's 5%. Excuse me. Sorry, that habanero or Scotch bonnet is getting to my nose. So this is 7% acidity. Let me check. Oh yeah, great. 7% acidity. So this is a safe vinegar for you to use for your pickling purposes. If you have a 5% of vinegar, use that. Okay, you don't have to buy this 7%. Okay. Apple cider. This is, it says here 5% as well. So this is what all you need. And we use other vinegar. Okay, you can use other vinegar, but you got to be careful that that it doesn't alter the taste that you are aiming for. Okay, I wouldn't use a malt vinegar. I don't know how. Okay, this is malt vinegar. It's 5%. When we use this in other like food, I find this very, very strong in terms of tartness. Okay, and I don't think it's good for the pickle. And you can see the color is also like different. It's not clear. This is vinegar from the Philippines and it's from coconut. It's made from coconut and it says 4 to 4.5% acidity. I wouldn't use this because it's not 5%. We are calling for 5% vinegar. All right, so that is the vinegar that we need. I just want to set up my stuff in here. Okay, so we want a non-reactive bowl or pot to make our brine. Okay. Okay, so in the brine we need 1 1/4 cups white distilled vinegar, and this is how it is. I already pre-measured it, so I'm gonna put this in the stainless steel pot and make sure that it's large enough for you to like contain all the cucumbers that you are processing. So that is 1/4 cups white distilled vinegar, 5% acidity, and this is 1 cup apple cider vinegar, again 5% acidity. Okay. And with that, we are going to measure 2 1/4 cups sugar. Okay, I'm going to use white sugar for this recipe. If you think this is a lot of sugar, you can look for other recipes where, you know, it's calling for you need less sugar than this. But just make sure that is a tested recipe, okay? This week I'm gonna be sending like some sites, a lot of government sites that are connected to some universities where they do a lot of, you know, food preservation. Those are safe sites to, like, you know, look for some recipes. 2 1/4.
Mildred, there's a question about non-reactive bowl, stainless steel or glass.
Yeah. What was that? Yeah. So what was the question?
They're asking if you're, because I believe you said something about a non-reactive bowl, and then if you can use stainless steel or glass.
Yes. Where I'm doing the brine solution right now is in a stainless steel. Okay. Don't use any Tefal because that has like coating and it won't go well. You don't want that to be like, you know, releasing those chemicals in those coating. And also you don't want iron pan because, you know, iron doesn't go well with acidic solutions, right? So this is a safe one to use. If you have enamel coated, what do you call that? I think enamel coated can be good as well, but this is the best. Okay. Aluminum, they could also react with acidity. So try to find, you know, a pot that is stainless steel. Okay. So we have that sugar solution. Along with this is we are going to add the spices now. Okay. So the recipe is calling for 1 tablespoon of mustard. Okay. I ran out of mustard, but I like peppercorn, so I'm putting peppercorns. Okay. Okay. Next is crushed pepper. Can you see the crushed pepper there? So I'm going to put that, and then 1 stick of cinnamon, and then those are celery seeds, right? So in it goes. Okay. Okay. This spice, can anybody guess what this spice is? I don't know if like I'm putting it properly. So it's called Allspice and it's very popular in like Caribbean cooking. Okay. So I'll put that in and a pinch of the same spice. Okay. This is powdered form and this is whole spice. Do you need to buy both type? If you have this kind and just buy this one, you don't have to, like, you know, this is just optional if you want to add that. Luckily I have the powdered form, so I'm adding it in. Okay, next one is 6 pieces of cloves, and this is how it looks like. Okay, and a pinch of the powder form of clove. Okay, and it goes as well. And then last that will go will be 1/2 teaspoon of ground turmeric. Okay. What is this? All right. So I'm going to stir this so that all the flavors melt together. I will have to bring this to a boil. And if you're doing like a refrigerator pickle, it's the same process, okay? Normally you would prepare your brine, you'll have your vegetables ready, and then you combine both, and then fill your jars with vegetables and then the brine, okay? But today we're making bread and butter pickles that will have a longer shelf life. That's why we're going to can them today, okay? So bring this to a boil. Let that boil while I check on.
In the meantime, I'll just read out a comment to the group. So a participant mentioned that they personally like to use organic sugar instead of regular sugar, as they find that regular can have 30% GMO sugar beets.
Sorry, Christine, was that a question?
Nope, just a comment to the group.
Oh, and who was that? All right, so these are my cucumbers. I'm going to once that this gets boiling, okay, I will dump the cucumbers, the drained cucumbers into this pot. Okay, so let's just wait for it to boil. Okay. Meantime, what's happening with my jars is that they're getting sterilized, and I'm going to set up my station so that they are ready to go and pack together. Okay, so I'm going to take out the sterilized jars from the canner. They've been there for 10 minutes and they're ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to hot pack them. So is there any questions or clarification at this point?
I don't see any new questions at the moment.
Okay. Any comments? Is this easy, doable? Okay, I can smell the vinegar wafting in my kitchen right now. Right, this is almost about to. Okay. What kind of jars am I using today? So I'm going to use the regular mason jars. This has been boiling for 10 minutes, so they're sterilized. So it will, with this amount of cucumbers, okay, it will make 3 to 5 of this 300 ml size. Okay, so this will fill up 3 to 5. I'm using a combination of this size of jar. Remember I mentioned like wide mouth jars, and because I have big cucumbers that I'm working with today, I thought I could use some wide mouth jars so that it's not so hard for me to fill it up. Okay, with bulky items. I'll have 2. I'll get 1 more. So remember that when you're using your grabber, your jar lifter, it's really hugging the neck of the bottle. Not like that. Try to clamp it right where the neck is so that you have a solid, grab. So Maggie, I just saw Maggie come in. Okay, it's starting to boil. Hello, Maggie, welcome. We're just getting into the swing of things. We are currently preparing our brine, and it has come to a first boil. All right, let me show everybody what's happening with the brine. Oops, it's foggy. Okay, so right now I'm going to put my cucumbers. So going to cook this a long time, what I want to do right now is to just bring it to a second boil, okay? Okay, so we're trying to let all the flavors meld in and get soaked up by the cucumber. Okay, so I can increase the temperature. So I've used this. This is very good in burgers. If you're making burgers for the summer, you know, for your family or invite friends over, this is surprisingly actually very good. I had doubts about, you know, this recipe before, but I've used it like 2 times, and I have good results. Okay, whenever it just has that good combination of like some sweetness to it when you use it with you know, for your burgers or sandwiches. Okay, does anybody know, by the way, why this is called bread and butter pickle? Anyone? So I'm getting the rest of my canning equipment ready. I'll be using the funnel so that I don't make a mess, and I will be using our magnetic lid lifter. And then the end part actually serves as a bubble remover, and we want the bubbles out of our mason jars so that, you know, we don't want any of those bubbles like occupying that space. We want to create like a vacuum actually inside of these jars. Right. Okay, so I can see almost like a bubble going on. Whoa. So I suggest if you are making a batch like this and you were putting in like Scotch bonnet, which is a very hot pepper, 1 is enough, okay? Because I can really sense and I can really smell, you know, the smell of the spicy pepper in my face. Okay, but I love spice. My family loves spice, so feel free to use that. Otherwise, just omit it. Okay, like the other batch, the second batch that I worked on that I showed you before, that has no spice in it. Okay. Okay, so it's almost bubbling up. So let me just share my screen again. So these are the pickling cucumbers, as I mentioned. Please make sure that you pick the pickling cucumbers from the supermarket. These look like they have some bumps and prickly like hair on them. Okay. If you don't see pickling cucumbers, you can use field cucumbers as an alternative, but not English cucumbers. Okay, these are the pickling spices that we used. We'll share the recipe later. Okay, now I just want to share some pickling tip. Okay, pickle tip, because you know we are trying to reduce food waste. Okay, we are trying to be like responsible and do, you know, our own way to save money, reduce waste, and help the planet. So every week, or do a bi-weekly or weekly fridge clean out, collecting veggie scraps that can be pickled. All right. So if you have so many like vegetables of one kind, let's say, I don't know, what vegetables do you normally end up having too much, you know, every week? Okay, let's say cauliflower. I mean, those are good to actually like pickle, you know. Cauliflower is good, and peppers sometimes like they come in a bulk when you buy them. So instead of like them getting you know, spoiled and anything like that, pickle them. And if you are able to like plant so many peppers, this is a good way also like to pickle them. Okay, next. Okay, so have you heard of something like footprint? It sounds like footprint, okay? But it's kind of the same actually. Like your footprint, because it's related to food, is the result of everything it takes to get your food from the farm to your plate. And many of these processes are invisible to consumers. Sometimes it's just easy for, you know, some people to just throw things away. I always hear my mom, because they came from like after war and they save everything, okay? But many of the kids nowadays, like it's easy for them to just throw things because we don't know how much effort it took to grow a particular item. Like Christine is with us here today, and she is a placement for both Urban Harvest and Market Garden, and she knows, having volunteered for both, and especially Market Garden, where they grow each and every vegetable that goes into the harvest share bag. It takes a lot of effort, right, Christine?
Yes, you're so right. I know when we go to the grocery store, you think that's all the effort it takes to bring your food home, but you forget about everything that it took to get the food to the grocery store.
Correct. So as a way to like kind of like respect people who grow our food, you know, and to, of course, the environment, every time we grow food, it also, you know, sucks up energy from the soil, gets energy from the sun, it needs water. All of these are energy, you know, that is needed to have that food. Okay. And all, of course, there are people like also that are not paid well in this agriculture industry, that you know, there that needs to be, we have to be conscious about actually. Okay, so many of these processes are not invisible to the consumer, so that's why we need to put in some, like, you know, effort to understand our food system and the all the energy it takes to like produce this, so we don't we shouldn't be wasting our food. Okay, and by reducing our food waste, we reduce our footprint. Okay, so share us some of your ideas, like how you actually like in your family, how you preserve food. Okay, so in order for you to like reduce your footprint. Right. Hey, did you notice any difference in the color? Yes. Okay. Does this look like the color like you normally see in like the cucumber pickles? Because from bright green now it's like an olive green. All right. So this is hot and my jars are hot. So I don't want to wait too long because I want to do hot packing. Hot packing means my vegetables or food is hot and I'm packing them in hot jars as well. I want to do this so that we are trying to avoid thermal shock. Okay, so if this is cold, our glasses might crack. So I'm gonna have to try to process, or not process, or to pack my jars now. Now I need and by the way, I also have the flat lids in a small pot, simmering away, not boiling, but like just simmering away, because as I mentioned last time, we want that part. You see that like orange brown thing around the rim? We want that actually to open up. Okay, that is like rubber. Okay, so we want it to open up so that when we press it onto our glass, it will, that is the one that seals our glass. Okay, so I'm going to show you later how that works. Okay, meantime, let me pack the jars. Okay. I want to distribute them equally, so let's see how we can do that. I wish you could smell my kitchen. It smells yummy. Oops. Okay. think I put a little too much on the other side. I can take it out. So make sure that you are leaving at least 1/2 inch headspace. Okay. So yeah, so what was my question earlier? Why do they call this bread and butter pickle? Anybody know?
No guesses in the chat
Okay.
box yet, but I'm so curious.
You're curious. I believe like it's you know, it's a very simple sandwich when they try to make like a sandwich that they don't put anything else other than this, and this itself makes a sandwich. So that's what I know so far, but if anybody knows or you can like search more about it, please let me know what you find. I think I can make like 4 jars. Give me a sec. Yeah. Make 4 jars.
Okay, so I did a quick Google search and it said that bread and butter pickles get their name from the Depression era meal of thinly sliced pickles between only slices of breaded butter.
There you go. So yeah, so this is like the basic, you know.
Oh, I said breaded butter. I meant buttered bread. There you go.
Okay. So just buttered bread, and then this one makes a sandwich during that time.
Yes, it's all you need for a good sandwich, apparently.
Yes, right. So yeah, so during those pressing times, like, you know, they had to make do with what they have, right? And interestingly, okay, when we talk about like later the ferments, okay, for a long time they couldn't solve the scurvy problem, you know, where people were dying from lack of vitamin C, okay, when they go like, you know, on long voyages. So now I'm going to make sure that my pickles are covered in the brine. Okay. I'm gonna scoop up some of this brine. Okay, so these skills are actually quite very good to like do it, you know, especially during this time when there's like inflation going on, and we need to save our harvest. We need to save food. Every time I go to the grocery, it's like a shocker. Oh, this has increased, you know, like we would as a family, because we, even my son, he likes coming with us to the grocery store, you know, but my husband and I, we would spot like, oh my God, I can't believe this has become like, you know, this much. Like butter used to be what, $5 before, now it's like $7 or something like that. It's like, whoa, everything is increasing. Okay, so if we can do a little bit of like, you know, saving food from, you know, going bad. Okay, so so this is what I did. I wiped the rim so that I can get a good seal. This is like, we don't have any food debris like going in there. It's wiped dry. And then with this, oops, with our flat lid, now I'm going to put it on top. Okay, I can touch the outside of the flat lid, but not the inside where it, you know, where it touches the food. Okay, as you can notice, this is a wide mouth and it has a big difference, you know, it has a bigger, wider flat lid compared to this regular mason jars. Okay, So this is useful for bulky veggies that you are pickling. Okay. And this one, I don't want to actually, yeah, this particular one, I don't want to actually like put it for canning. I want to put it in the fridge so I don't have to subject that to processing. So make sure that you like move your bubble remover around just to make sure that all the bubbles are out. I should have done that with the other pickles, but I don't see any bubbles anyway. So yeah, so just double check that there's no bubbles. If you don't have this item, just use a chopstick to do that. Okay. So now I need my rings. Okay. So these are the screw band or rings. Okay. And this will hold, this will hold the flat lid in place so that it is centered. Okay. Okay. So it's finger tight. Finger tight means, you know, I'm not using any clamp or anything to tighten it. I'm just using my hand, my fingers basically. So that's enough to tighten the mason jar. Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing with this. And I need to have a big ring for this wide mouth item. And for this item, because I'm not going to put it in the fridge, let me show you. I can either like use a spare, you know, flat lid and the screw band for this, but you can also purchase, you know, the ball, what do you call this, lid, okay, for like a plastic one that can go in here. And the purpose of this is, you know, once you open your pickle, you can use this as an alternate to like cover it and put this in the fridge. But for now, it's a little too hot. Okay. I just want to like leave it open like that. Okay. For these 3 items, now I'm going to put this in my canning pot. Okay. So let me just do that. Quite heavy, but I just want to show everyone. Okay. All right, so that's gonna go in the canning pot. It has the rack at the bottom. Okay. So you can see one of them is like bubbling out. That means all the air in the mason jar are like coming out. And that is what the heat will actually do when we process this for 20 minutes. Okay. All the air in the glass mason jar will be sucked out of it, will be pushed out of it, and then you will have like a vacuum. Okay, it will create a vacuum. The rubber will like seal the rim, and then you will end up with a jar of pickles later on that is shelf stable. Okay, let me put this in the other one. So that's gonna boil for 20 minutes. Okay. that's gonna boil for 20 minutes. And I know last time we didn't have a chance to see the final product, the pineapple mango salsa. And this is what we made, okay? After, you know, the boiling away of 20 minutes. We won't be able to like wait the whole time, 20 minutes, just to see that, but I can show you next time what we make out of this, you know, the pickles, okay? But this is the pineapple mango salsa that we made last time, okay? And just to give you on the side view of the look of this, you know, bread and butter pickle, that's how it looks like. And when it cools down, I'm gonna put it in the fridge, and this will be my refrigerator pickle. All right, so Mildred, if I don't have pot, what will I do? Do I really need to like put everything like in a canner and do that every time? No, you can make your brine and just like do this and stop at this process. Put this in the fridge and let it sit there for like, you know, one week, 2 weeks, so that the flavor will just meld in, and then you can eat the pickle, and you can consume it within like 2 months or so. All right, so that is your refrigerator pickle. Okay, it's not subjected to the heat processing. All right, so that wraps up our pickling. Is there any question? Yes, Maggie is asking if I'll be posting the recipe. Yes, I'll be sending that email, the one that I did before, along with the YouTube version of this recipe. In that YouTube version, Jade added like one crushed garlic, and you can do that as well as a spice. So you can be, you know, you can have fun with your pickles. Don't dump a lot of like garlic, because then that will kind of like alter. You can, you know, put like 1 clove of garlic, one habanero and all of that, but not too much also of these spices. Okay. What else? We still have some canning equipment on loan that you can borrow. The good thing about this canner, okay, is it has a feature where you can actually use a steam option, okay, and that's what I'm going to show you next time, because I find that hot water also takes time to boil the water, so it takes also a lot of energy to even like boil that water. And remember that when you are heat processing the jars, the water has to be above the jars, like at least 1 inch, okay, and then you start to count 20 minutes from the time like it starts boiling. Okay, with this with this type of pot, it has a knob where, you know, I don't know if you can really see. Okay, this is the last item. So it has a knob where you can see like there's a pointer, and there's blue, and then there's green on one side. Okay, so it shows you that the altitude. Okay, what you need to know if you're using this pot, those people who already like borrowed, is that the knob, wait for the pot to like heat up, boil, and then once it hits the green, that's when you start like counting 20 minutes. For this particular size of jars, you need 20 minutes. If it's a smaller jar, it can be less than 20 minutes. Normally it would be 15 or 10 minutes, but for this one, 500 ml, 20 minutes. So it has to stay on the green, and that's when you start counting. Okay, now to lessen the amount of time or energy to boil the water, as I mentioned, there's an option to have like the steam, and next time I will show you that. You just need maybe a couple of inches of water below the rack, and you will boil that, and then allow the steam to sterilize it. You can use it to sterilize the jars, and also to heat process the jars. And it's been like, I'm loving it. So I'm loving that option, because it doesn't take so long for me to like, you know, it doesn't take so long for me to boil the water. All right. Okay. Are there other questions that I miss? Any comments from the group? or any recipe that you think like, hey, this is worth trying. Try this one, and the group can benefit from it, and we can try it as well. Anything? Okay. So if you want to share any recipe, you can email that to me as well. In the YouTube version of this workshop, there's a chutney recipe that Jade made. So if you are into chutneys, or you just want to, like, learn how to make a chutney, she made a tamarind mango chutney in that version, and you can try that recipe as well. All right. Or try, okay, the tip is, please don't go bonkers and just try to like make whatever you want, because that would end up with like getting stuck with those mason jars that you don't really like, would want to eat. So try to preserve something that you would want to eat, okay, so that you can like eat it and not go to waste, because that's the whole purpose of this. Okay. All right, so that wraps up our session for today. Next week we don't have a session. However, there's an option for me. If there's an interest, I can open the Zoom for 30 minutes of any question and answer from 1:30 to 2 o'clock, just for us to have like a chat, an informal chat. If you are having any, questions about your home canning projects. But there's no actual workshop next week. Our next workshop, the last one, is jamming, making jams and jellies, and that will be 2 weeks from now. So that is June 22nd. Okay, I will share all the links and recipes for this workshop in the follow-up email. Okay. Final comments. So if there's no other comments, then thank you for coming today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, or next week. If you have any questions, I'll open the chat. Thanks, Lou.
Hi.
Thanks, Antonella.
Thank you, Mildred. That was great.
Well, thanks.